Season 6, Episode 9, IRL in Real Life, Software Solutions and AI in Work Design. Trade struggles with the ideas of flow efficiency, likening this to, UTI? Sorry, Anna Linning, a subscriber who asks about flow. Alan connects the ideas to Flow's scones. That's Flo Bjork-Petersen's famous pumpkin scones, that is. Sara brings the boys back around to discuss psychological flow and links these ideas to job redesign. The conversation takes a twist as Sara discusses her brother's lectures in artificial intelligence. She recalls a conversation with Lachlan from livemind.ai, who asks her about doing a joint presentation. IRL, in real life, like there needs to be an acronym to distinguish the real versus virtual world. We love our acronyms on this show.
Welcome to the system.
Yeah. 1, 2, kid. This speed. R for D. And we're gonna bust it up like this. I'm crushing empty bourbon cans with my dirty hands, poisoned by devil's weed, dreaming off foreign lands. Ever since my very spark of life, I've been caught in this astrological plight.
Hello, and welcome to the WOWORK podcast, a series of playful legal dissections on the most curious and alarming events in the world of work. The podcasters Alan Girl, Trey Svetkovsky and Sara Pazell debate how to craft a better experience of work. Sit back, relax and enjoy. And remember, none of the things we talk about today should be construed as legal advice or any other type of advice. We're just here to talk about all things related to work.
Trace, the thing that I love about work health and safety, about that sector, is that it's always evolving, it's always getting bigger, and there's always new interesting things to talk about. And
Alan loves a strong word.
Just recently, we've seen a development of the jurisprudence on officer liability, which has been absolutely fascinating. It's been there in the background for a while, and there's been quite a few significant cases, but Judge Russell in the New South Wales District Court just recently talked about it in making a finding that an officer was not liable. And now up in Queensland, in far northern Queensland, Magistrate Priestley has made a similar finding, drawing upon the New South Wales decision. And it's really refreshing. It's great. It's saying that if you're, for example, a director of a company and you've done your basic due diligence, then even though the company might be liable, the company may have committed an offence, that doesn't necessarily mean that the officers have committed an offence.
Yes.
And I think that's a great development in the area of jurisprudence.
Those people behind the PCBU, behind the veil, also logically, therefore, they perhaps may also be liable. So these two cases contra that.
Yeah, well, if you just pause and think about it, the company, it's normally a company, the company's obligation is to ensure the safety of workers so far as is reasonably practicable.
Yes.
And an officer's obligation is a different type of obligation, which is to exercise due diligence. And so if you've got two completely different obligations, then the standards that need to be met in relation to them should be different.
Yeah.
So a company might fail in its obligation to ensure the safety of workers so far as is reasonably practicable, but the director, and so the New South Wales case and the Cairns case by Priestley as the magistrate demonstrate that in those cases it was a director. If the director knows that there's a safety management system set up, that they've appointed a professional person to be their compliance officer, and they're actively involved in making sure that the system is working, then they don't need to identify every single risk, and they don't need to study every single risk.
Yes, I think the term micromanage was the term.
Yeah, the
used
word
in the
micromanage
decision.
was definitely used.
And
yes.
it's important because that it's somewhere for those transponders amongst us lurking in section 27, subsection 5, you've got the word
That was smooth.
Yes.
knowledge. And knowledge certainly for me, from a pedagogical perspective, certainly connotes something beyond micromanaging. If you are abreast of the entire system, if you have knowledge, then I think you've discharged your duty potentially. And so knowledge is a powerful word. I certainly not defined in the Act. A lot of things aren't defined in this Act, which is a problem in itself. But the word knowledge is powerful, and if you can demonstrate, you used the word basic before, if you can demonstrate with conviction, with hand on heart, that you knew or ought to have known, hence the term knowledge, that this could occur, therefore I've appointed this or I've addressed it by this, that to me suggests you understand what the word knowledge means. Head in the sand means you probably don't know what the word knowledge means.
Well, I'll just read out a quote in a second because I think it's helpful, but Judge Russell's the New South Wales adjudicator, great judge. Unfortunately, we won't have him in work health and safety matters in the future, but he's given some really good decisions, really interesting decisions.
Yes.
And the magistrate is Priestley. He's also a very interesting person who's given some really interesting judgments.
Very experienced. As the term industrial magistrate, as the term was used.
Yeah.
And has done many of these, including inquests.
Yes.
If you recall the concrete pump matter, I think, from a little while ago.
Yes.
There's various cases. So we've got two.
But he's interesting in terms of when you look at his reasoning and how he makes his judgment. But this is the magistrate's words that I'm reading out now. He says a managing director of a larger organisation like the organisation in question is not expected to know everything that is going on at any given moment. Running a corporation necessarily involves a level of delegation, including to senior employees whose job it is to manage health and safety.
Yeah.
Well, it's very refreshing for me as a defence lawyer to hear those words said.
I actually think it's very refreshing for society as a whole to know that some of these cases are tested, the pointy end, as Sara always says, and they are, and then these concepts are explored, and they're explored to that level, and with some force, obviously, on the part of the defendant's submissions. And I think society benefits from this because there's more information and more knowledge about what it is that a person is reasonably and practically expected to do.
Well, I think it also brings the judgments that come out of the courts
Yes.
into line with what a person on the street would think.
Yep.
So if you were to ask a person on the street what should happen, they might say, well, look, it might be that the directors shouldn't be personally charged, and might be the directors shouldn't have to personally wear this, but the organisation definitely should.
Yeah, and we often forget that the person equals organisation, whether that's an artificial entity or whether it's a natural person, it's still a person at law. And I think the job's done. If the PCBU, that person is, i.e. the organisation, is found guilty or not, then I think that ordinary person in the street would agree, yep, that's fine, that's enough.
Trajan and I love just discussing the idea of no matter the ontology, the framework of thinking that goes into your management practices, things are still tested at this pointy end of the law, as you say, right at the edge.
Well, and that's the thing. There is no other place to test things.
You can philosophize, you can theorize, all that you want. You can go through all kinds of academic rigor in concepts, but this tells a story.
It's
this case law.
Yeah, where the rubber meets the road in the court of law. That's how civil society operates.
Well, it's very nice too to see in a criminal prosecution some recognition of the efforts made to achieve work health and safety.
Yes. Oh, that's eloquently put, Alan. I like that.
Welcome to the system.
Anna Linning or Lining. Sorry, I say Linning. Alan says Lining, but Anna is a subscriber, and she's written to us a couple of times, and she's written another question about good work design, and particularly about flow states for work efficiency for knowledge workers.
Flow efficiency.
Flow states for efficiency.
Or flow efficiency. I can't get past those terms. I'm pretty sure it's a urological term, but anyway.
No.
Oh, Trace, come on.
No, I'm sure it might also be, but my mind's not there. Okay,
that's not Anna's thinking.
That's not Anna. That's not Anna right now. Sorry, Anna. Sorry, Anna. So I remember way back in OT school, learning occupational therapy school, my first degree, learning about flow when you're in rhythm and just enjoying what you're doing, where you lose track of time and things are just, working well for you. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi was
Flo
the
make scones?
cognitive researcher, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, talking about flow. What did you say, Alan?
Flo makes scones.
What are you
Pumpkin
talking about?
scones.
What?
Yes, the best pumpkin scones in the
Is
world.
this an Australian thing?
Flo, Joe's wife.
Joe Bajelki Peterson.
Oh, the FLO, not as in
Not
flow,
Florence.
FLOW. I'm talking about cognitive workflow, and Anna is too, okay?
What does cognitive workflow mean? You're going to have to unpack that for me.
Have you read out Anna's question completely?
No, let's keep going. So as I just explained,
Pay attention.
pay attention.
you?
Flow is about, finding your rhythm where time has no meaning and you're just enjoying, or you're really motivated to continue with what you're doing. You're in a like when you are in the recording
Not in the
studio.
bathroom. She's
when
not,
you're in
she's
the
not, just get that
So
thought
if I'm
out of your
walking down
head.
the street, clapping my feet, dancing, just doing my thing. Is that what you're saying?
just doing your thing,
Yeah, okay.
right? You're in your recording studio, and I've heard your
Yeah.
wife say, "Oh my gosh, he's been in there for hours."
Yeah.
You're in flow.
I'm in
You're in
flow.
flow, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
flow.
So she's asking about this for knowledge workers. Hearing a lot of conversations about this issue, people might be struggling to find a critical piece of information, and this interrupts their flow, right? When they're trying to stay on top of all this multiple communication systems, Teams and chats and emails, and suddenly
yes.
what could have been a nice, efficient way of doing work has just been discombobulated, unpacked in many ways, and it has interrupted their flow states, right? And there's inefficiencies. Now, I've been doing projects on job design. So there is a certain definite role for human factors, ergonomics, human systems integration to look at job design, right? Where you understand tasks, what people do, that's fundamental human factors understanding, tasks, task components, and then within those tasks, what are the job roles and the work systems, what happens, right? That's where work is a design medium. And you do time studies on tasks. Now, I'm using some software called Beamable. Give the Beam girls, beam them up, give them a little credit here, a little kudos. Victoria and Stephanie are excellent technology partners with job design software Beamable. And I know you want to say "beam me up, Scotty," right? I know. I can see that forming on your lips.
It just sounded like an infomercial ad within the ad. Just the way your voice changed.
Beamable.
This episode proudly sponsored
Proudly
by.
sponsored by.
But I was going to say
All right, beam me up with Beamable. Okay, so I'm using this software. It allows for agile work design, meaning you can continually look at it and evaluate it and be current and change your design strategy as you go. Because so much of work system design might be waterfall strategy, where you've got this big plan, but you're not continually evaluating it and having some iterative back and forth ongoing design strategy as things unfold live, right? So this allows you to digitally track people's time, their use of time, and then their feelings about that use of time. Were they in flow? Did they feel as though the work was meaningful? Was it strategically aligned with what they believe the business objectives are? Does the business believe the way they spent their time was strategically aligned?
Record that.
So there's little pulse surveys. We call it the survey, not survey, because it's a very highly contextualized evaluation. It's discharging your obligations as a duty holder by consulting with workers on the way that they're involved with their work days, right? Same thing I do when I go out to do an evaluation. I interview and I observe. This allows you a little very highly contextualized survey, not survey, right? So that you're doing health and well-being surveys that are really meaningful based on where your time is spent, as opposed to just generally, do you love life? Are you feeling bullied right now? Is there violence in your workplace? It's like specifically anchored to task by task. Are you doing fun work? Are you doing energizing work? Are you doing strategically aligned work? Are there areas where you could have efficiency in your work, right? So then you analyze that. And let's just say, Trey, for argument's sake, right? A whole bunch of professors are assessed. And let's just say professor level 1 is assessed for the year. We annualize all those professor salaries.
Just professors or chancellors and vice chancellors?
Whatever you want to throw in that mix.
But
Are you having fun?
Yeah.
Wait. Pause. Okay, so I'm going to get back to Anna's question, but we can then unpack, and let's just say we did all this professor assessment, right? All your tasks, and then we found a task where you said, like 98% of you said that there's efficiencies in this task, and then we annualize how much time and money is spent on that task. So let's say you spend 4 hours a week on a task that you think has incredible efficiencies, and we say, well, we're going to allocate, I'm making up numbers here, $100 per hour times X amount of professors throughout this university system. What do you know? We could have saved, $7 million this year if on that task. And even if we tackle 50%, achieve 50% more efficiency, we've saved $3.5 million on it. So we annualize this with financial cost analytics, right?
Yeah.
So this to me is really powerful way to keep doing what if scenarios. You've got a model. Once you've got that raw data, then you do the scenario simulations, the what ifs, and you can digitally move this around and put little color tags. It's got these beautiful color pictorials, people like color and images and pictures. So going back to Anna's question, what happens when what do you do for knowledge workers? To me, this is what you do. You do agile work design strategy, and you look at a couple things. You look at their job roles. Right? Analyze a day in the life of, a week in the life of, a season in the life of. And then separately, you do what I call process flow engineering. So you may say, every time we're going to make a decision on procuring new equipment, like this microphone and this keyboard that's in front of me, I'm going to understand in this business how many people are involved in this decision. And are they, as a system, looking at doing things in ways that they think are efficient and effective. And you can analyze a process, not just a job role. So a job role, yes, and then a process. And we've got a mining project coming up where we're doing this and looking at equipment procurement for process flow engineering. Same thing, same kind of system. You can start to say, well, what happens if we did it differently? Do we save time? Do we save money? Is this more efficient? Is this effective? And you've got all of this beautiful diagrammatic kinds of imaging and costings.
Yeah, I took the question to be a little bit more different,
You took it as urine.
In real time. No.
You did.
You did.
I used the word flow. Somehow you guys extrapolate into
No,
other...
actually,
You said a urologist.
You said urologist.
Yes.
Anyway, let's go back.
And flow. However, so for me it was more like...
Does that get you discombobulated?
I saw you smile. You liked my word,
yes,
discombobulated.
It's a great word.
I love that word.
It's pretty big. It's a mouthful. Anyway, so for me...
I'd be discombobulated if my workflow was interrupted.
Correct.
That's right.
So it'd be like this. So the way I see it is, okay, you're working on what you perceive to be important, i.e. Corrections for a paper, that's been rewrite, and then suddenly ping, all of these emails that just keep flooding because that's how Microsoft and Teams is designed.
Correct.
And that's how I took Anna's thing. And then suddenly, what now? And of course, someone like me who needs to respond to an email because it's in my nature, but also it's going to be important. And you know what? It is important to someone. So a good example would be, here I am focused on all the revisions for this paper to be submitted, and some random administration type officer wants just to confirm whether this student, their work course complete. Now it's important for them, so I find myself now completely disrupted, minimising save because you want to save because you don't want to lose the edits you've just done. Minimise, take a deep breath, roll your eyes, look at it, and then and you think, you know what? I could answer this later, but of course...
Now I'm interrupted. My brain's there. Yeah.
Exactly. And then suddenly you then have to then minimise that screen, open up another screen, because as we know, in modern systems, everyone's got different software and different frameworks, and this is a proprietary type system on tracking a student's progress, going through and then double checking. So bring up the transcript, checking all this, and then 5-10 minutes later, and then stuff it. It's time to go for workflow in the other management system.
So oftentimes when we get these interruptions, it's a really important human factors study because you look at it for like nursing staff and their medical medication administration when you get interruptions. It definitely has an effect to cognition and workflow. And usually it's about 20 minutes after an interruption to get back into the flow of deep, concentrated work where you're feeling, that you're really well engaged again. And so those are significant interruptions to track. So if you're asking about, what happens when you're just trying to find the critical piece of information, there's business architecture and information architecture that speaks to me about. So business architecture might be really some of your protocols and your job design of, and then there's also, of course, you always mention the personal habits and responsibilities to turn your Outlook off and try to avoid the pings of those emails except for key times. That's requires a lot of personal discipline, doesn't it? Yeah, it sure does.
It does.
And then there's the information architecture where the business has to continually evaluate how many different streams of communication are there and what should be on what system. I know even in my own small little consultancy practice, we're going through all of our teams in SharePoint and OneDrive folders and Google Drive and Dropbox and anything we had left over and trying to synthesize that and then create a glossary and a better menu of finding the right stuff because searching takes so much time and you grow organically and like this weird wild beast, you realize you probably had needed better architecture around that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't think it can be solved in this modern world. I just think it's get a lot worse.
It's not an end point. It's a continual. That's what I said. It's an agile, ongoing, continual type of study. And you want reliability and you want resilience in good system design, right? So you want things to reliably occur, but you also want resilience so that when hiccups happen, and they do again and again, that you actually have an adaptive ability to recover quickly and to rebound and still be able to hit target, right? So it's that combination of resilience and resistance. I call it the right tension between resilience, the R&R tensions, resilience and resistance. And so for Anna's, answer, I mean, how do law firms manage all their information and all their files and their data management? It's a huge, huge issue.
Yeah, it's a big job, but you get paid for the time that you work on matters, so you don't lose out.
Oh, so while you're digging through a messy system, you just keep billing ding, ding, ding.
Well, if a client asks you a question and it's going to take you half an hour to answer it, then you charge for the half an hour.
I have to say, I've one time had a lawyer say, even when we were speccing out what a project could look like, they were saying, I'm actually going to waive some of this money. And I said, wait, you're just about to give a quote. You get to price, you get to charge for your quote. I wish I could build that into all of my work. Seriously?
I've noticed that even tradies are charging for quotes now.
Yeah, I understand it's a lot of work to quote, and people just keep throwing new scenarios at you, right? Yeah, so after the initial pass-through, you kind of have to say, okay, every time there's variations, and hereafter there's some time. But, Anna, I think the answer is that it is complicated, that you're going to continually find new ways of new communication systems, business architecture, information architecture is a live thing, and it really, pays to continually evaluate job design of whose job it is to do what, why, what systems they're using, and are they efficient.
Welcome to the system.
Yeah, I think also with the development of AI that what will happen is when we're asked a question that we need to answer, AI will produce a lot of resource for us automatically.
So I'm using AI now as an adjunct, ancillary, not an adjunct, an ancillary to it. Minor things like should I use this phrase in this? It'll just quickly.
Yeah,
I knew the answer.
In little ways every day, anyone who's got a smartphone or uses Microsoft software, they're being helped by AI.
Look, every single time we're searching for something, that's right.
Yeah.
Your it's embedded in almost everything we do. And I saw my brother, Robert, did a great presentation at a local community center. And I was in Adelaide recently, and I went to watch him. And he's such a good presenter. He's really American in presenting, and he frames things and prepares you and asks the right question. I just sit there and go, that's just such an American style of presenting, right? Really inclusive. And what do you think, Alan? Looks you in the eye. I love watching this. So he was talking about AI, and the term of this artificial intelligence, what I actually think of as more augmentative assistance, like you've talked about, right? It just prompts things, but you still need to be the expert.
Yep.
The term was created in the 1950s.
Yeah.
1950s. So it's because people are all freaked out a lot. You know, you get all this hyperbole, this AI is going to ruin the world. When in fact it's embedded in our life. The term Turing test came in the 1950s. Do you know what a Turing test is?
No.
Turing. A Turing, not like touring, not like seeing the world. Turing.
Turing, okay. Turing.
It's essentially what you're just trying to work out whether or not you, a third party, could tell the difference if one is machine or one is human. You know how you look at photos and you go, hey,
yes,
was this
yes,
real
I did
and
know
was that not? And I'll tell you one of the most common ones. You know CAPTCHA? Where if you're filling in a website or a billing form and it says CAPTCHA, can you recognize these letters or how many of these are windows or scooters in this picture of tiles? That is a Turing test. That's one of those essence of trying to decipher and filter who's real and who's not, right? So it's a deceptively simple method of determining a machine can demonstrate human intelligence. If a machine can engage in a conversation with a human without being detected as a machine.
So it's Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
Replicant?
Well,
So-
Dilation of
a similar topic is cobots, and my nephew's working on cobots and the psychology of it. And humans, we're ready for cobots. We're ready to embrace them. And you think not many people have grown up without Star Wars, and Star Wars has droids, and droids are basically cobots.
Yeah.
So we're ready for them. The technology isn't quite there yet, but geez, we're close.
You know,
I've seen some of the footage, like
the first chatbot was from the 1960s. The first chatbot, so I heard my brother speak on this. The first chatbot, 1960s, was Eliza, and she was the psychotherapist. And she would help with diagnostics, differential diagnostics, when you put in some of the information. So think of how much better your local physician can respond if there was a database library to double check what all the symptoms that were reported. So Eliza was a 1960s chatbot. So we have seen so much happen in AI development that I think we just have to chill out, not just jump on a solution because like incident investigation tools, it just seems like it's trendy and wow, we got to jump on it and then get disappointed when it fails.
Yes.
We have to go back to our core design philosophy of what is our business challenge, what do we want to solve, and then test many ideas against it, run little focus groups and iterative back and forth to see if that is the right solution. Because technology, any digital solution is just one of many tools in an armament, a battery of solutions. I'm about to do a presentation, a couple of presentations this week on this very topic. And I've been connected through the Queensland XR Hub and one of their colleagues, Lachlan Phillips, who's in Sydney. And I was talking to Lachlan about this, and he has a company called livemind.ai or livemind.ai. We're chatting, and he's saying, I just do mixed realities. So to me, whether the solution is AI or VR, virtual reality, or this, it depends what you want to happen. And get this, he goes, I was talking about some presentations and speaking to people, and he goes, so IRL? And I said, sorry, what? He goes, IRL? And I go, interrelator reliability. He goes, he started laughing. He goes, in real life. I go, oh wait.
in real life.
Are you telling me that there now needs to be an acronym to distinguish IRL from the virtual world? And it is so common in their vernacular. And I told my son, right? My son will say something like, hey, not right now, AFK. And I go, so I know what that means now. Do you know what AFK means?
No.
Trage?
No, but I'm trying to work out what the difference is between virtual reality and augmented reality. Like all this reality. Reality used to be a friend of mine. Remember that
IRL, baby, in real life. Yeah. I'll tell you
what my. Heck is the difference
I'll tell you my
AR and VR.
I'll tell you my understanding in a moment. What's AFK?
Another
frackin'.
Yeah.
It's away from keyboard. I can't deal right now. I'm AFK. And then you go, and so you say,
away from
hey, there's someone yelling out there. I'm
AFK.
Listen. Hey, there's someone yelling out there. I'm AFK IRL. I'm away from my keyboard. In real life, I'm going to check out somebody yelling on the corner. So I say to my son, Lachlan says, mid-conversation IRL. And my son looks at me and goes, yeah. And he goes, oh my gosh, Mom, are you serious? You don't know that? How embarrassing. I go, what? So it's a thing. It's a thing. IRL, AFK, right? So, but then get this, because we've been on movie discussions, right? Then Lachlan says something like, oh, I don't know if, you kind of know any of my background much because I came from media. I go, oh, no, that's cool. You mean like kind of movie things, filmy things? And he's like, yeah, kind of filmy things. And then later he sends me his website. I'll have to share it with you. The dude worked on like the Lego movie. The animations of the I'm like, that's not just like some little tiny filmy thing. That's like, what the? That's kick ass. Yeah. So he's got all kinds of movie credits to his name.
Yeah. So that'd be closer than 3D to virtual reality,
all right.
Or 3D.
Let's answer Trey's question. So when you're talking about virtual reality versus augmentative reality, augmentative reality might be, hey, I'm going to use my phone camera, right? And I'm going to pretend I want Alan's jacket on you, and I've got a picture of Alan's jacket, and I can then infuse that and see what it looks like, right? That's augmentative, like adding to the reality some other benefit versus a virtual reality, a completely new virtual space.
Alan doesn't have a jacket.
No, all of us become cartoon characters completely, right? As opposed to augmenting your existing reality, right?
And I put a jacket on. And the jacket, I want Alan to wear like a fur coat or some type of. Is that what we're talking about?
And then there's SVP, a shared virtual presence, where we all jump into a virtual space and we can start to problem solve together,
like a little hot tub. Because that's what hot tubbing is what experts do in court.
Season 1, episode 1, right? The bubbles of trouble.
No, professionals in order for the court, sometimes they can make an order where. It's called hot tubbing, where they...
really?
Yeah, the defence claims, so they all agree to disagree and agree, and eventually it saves a lot of the adversarial contest.
So it's like you've jumped into a space away from a space, you've hot tubbed it. Yeah. Okay, you guys were SVPing before you even knew it was cool. IRL. SVP IRL, hot tub IRL.
So complicated. Yeah, so complicated, like away from all these acronyms. I thought you were about to say your friend, the media fellow was...
Lachlan.
Lachlan was you guys say that he specifically worked on acronyms and shortening long words, and because there's an art form in that, I've got to say.
Let me tell you something really cool about some of the AI issues in terms of fear factor, right? So a lot of people are afraid, like, oh, AI's crashed, AI's done this, it's walk away from it. But as Lachlan points out to me that, okay, problems might arise, but they're usually resolved like in a couple of weeks. Even when my brother does these presentations and wants to show you about the latest and greatest, he warns...
Is your brother AI? Is he AI?
He teaches this as one topic, right?
Gotcha.
So when he was teaching this topic to Community Forum, he was saying, no matter what I've prepared this morning, even when I come to you this evening to present, it might have changed. And in the middle of the presentation, some of those sites are up, some of those sites are down, right? And he said, and I prepared that 6 hours ago or 8 hours ago. So the problems that arise are quick to resolve also. So they're very quick to resolve. They regenerate. You have some regenerative solutions. The other thing is people fear their information, their data going out to the worldwide, wherever, right?
When you put stuff up in the AI, when you put a paper, people are warned, be careful.
Yeah, be careful. But you can also create closed language systems, right? A knowledge bank. So let's say we created a why work knowledge bank with just all the things we've debated, and we can scan all the cases we've ever discussed. We can scan all of our recordings, and it's closed. It's not drawing out from other knowledge sources. Right. And we create this data bank of a language that we feel is verified, validated, and then any decision-making support comes from this bubble of information, right? This protected bubble. So you can put a lot of knowledge resource from all of our, I was going to count the years, but I don't think I'll do that. But, let's go quality, not quantity right now. Let's go quality.
Chronological collective knowledge.
Let's just go quality knowledge, not quantity. So then we create a bubble, and then it becomes the why work knowledge bank, right? AI support system. That's all I'm saying.
Yes,
so there's so many opportunities. Of filtering out what's the most important thing. So in your meetings, you can have there's these, I think it's called Firefly AI, where they can summarize your meetings for you. So the goal is to try and find the ways in which it really augments and supports you rather than hinders you, and and build that into your systems. And you want to work out how to erode disparity among workforce population. So if you can use it to build more inclusivity into your business and support people who otherwise might have been marginalized, that's a really beneficial, altruistic way of using some of these new technologinologies, right? Was that in real life, or was that your bot? That's right. Was that your AI bot or IRL?
Our viewers need to watch. They need to watch Blade Runner. It's happening a lot sooner than you think.
Did you eat that donut, IRL?
That's right. No, I'll do that myself, thank you. I'm not having my AI, my donut. Mine.
Your bot?
No way.
We hope you enjoyed that episode of Why Work. You've been listening to Trage, Sara and Alan. And if you'd like to know more about some of the things we've talked about today, please subscribe, and we'd be more than happy to provide you with information, names of cases, and other things that may interest you. Please be aware that none of the matters we've talked about today should be construed as legal advice or any other type of advice. We're just here to talk about all things related to work. See you next time.
What you thinking? You jumped up in the system. Welcome to the system. Welcome to the system. Welcome to the system. Yeah. Welcome to the system.